everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here in the beautiful Thoughtworks Vietnam office. My name is Thao. I am the country manager for Thoughtworks Vietnam. I've been at Thoughtworks for 8 years, but actually my background is in law. So I was working in Thoughtworks legal teams across the offices in Sydney and Singapore, and now I'm able to have this opportunity to come back home here and lead the team in Vietnam. I'm very excited to be moderating today's panel, which focuses on a very important topic of what it's like to be a woman in tech consulting. In my work, I've seen the incredible impact that women are making in the tech space, and especially here at Thoughtworks, I have a chance to work with the brightest minds, like our panelists here. So in today's panel, we will have a chance to explore their journeys, their challenges, their triumphs, and how they're navigating this more traditionally male-dominated field. So for the structure of today's session, we will have 30 minutes of panel discussion where I will ask the panelists a series of questions to explore their experiences, their insights, their advice, and then we'll have 15 minutes for the audience to ask your own questions and engage directly with the panelists. Right, all right, maybe I will hand over now to Susan to kick us off with the introduction of our panelists. If you could share your name, your role, where you work, and maybe one fun fact about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Susan. I'm originally from Peru. I'm a developer. So I joined Thoughtworks 6 years ago in the Barcelona office in Spain. Currently, I'm doing a LTA in Vietnam. For the ones who doesn't know what is LTA, it's an opportunity we have in Thoughtworks to go to work in another Thoughtworks office. So that is what I'm currently doing. I'm working here in Vietnam for 2 years. Nice to meet you. My fun fact. Yeah, since I moved to Vietnam, I started to do yoga. So I'm kind of like yoga beginner now.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm Shazia. I'm a delivery principal here in Vietnam. I've been in the tech industry for 22 years. And the last 5 years in Thoughtworks. What's the fun fact about me? I like to buy old broken furniture and then do it up, paint it, and give it a little bit of a personality. That's a little bit about me. Okay. Everyone, it's nice to see all of you here, and thanks for staying to the session. My name is Trang. I'm currently working as a business analyst at Thoughtworks. I've been with Thoughtworks for nearly 10 months, but I've been in the tech industry for a little more than 5 years, nearly 6 years until now. One fun fact about me, I'm left-handed, but I got time to practice on both hands so that when I play tennis, I can use both rackets. All right, I pass over to May.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm May. I'm actually coming from Sydney, Australia first. So I have been with Thoughtworks for 13 years and a half. So I have been in tech industry for 27 years. So that tells my age. So I'm the head of tech APAC for Thoughtworks. So I'm basically looking at everything tech for what we do here. So one of the fun fact for me is actually I'm getting a talent of getting lost everywhere. Doesn't matter how many times I've been to this place, I always get lost. So I basically have to live together with Google Maps. So that's one of the features I really appreciate.
Great, wonderful. Thank you for your sharings. Maybe we can kickstart with the first questions. How did you get into tech or consulting industry in the first place? I'll start with Trang.
Okay. So my journey getting into tech industry is very accidental. I graduated with an international business major. I never imagined myself working in tech. I haven't touched anything technology before. But I got a referral from my friend to do an internship at an IT service agency. And the internship role is business analyst. So it's when I start knowing about the tech industry. My very first experience at the role and at the industry is that on the first day, I thought we're going to go out and find business or find a client, but it's not. That's okay. is that I spend hours sitting in front of the computer and then browsing different landing pages, learning about the website functionality, what's the button or what those terms called, and attempt to make wireframes on a very old tool called draw.io. And then just like a few years later, actually last year I browsed LinkedIn and then I found Thoughtworks. Thoughtworks is the first tech consulting industry, company that I got in. And what really amazed me is when I got through interviewing round with Thoughtworks, it's not just about talking about your skill or what you did, but you get a chance to showcase how you usually work with the client, and then you get to know the culture and the value of the company as well. So that's why journey getting into tech.
Great. Shazia, was it the same for you?
So you'll see there's a theme building. People who are not developers, especially women who are not developers, came into it accidentally. I also came into technology, into IT accidentally. My first love, my passion is human body. Human systems, how does the human body work? I've been fascinated by human body and its function since I was very young. So I pursued biomedical science. And in my final year, I realized that if I want to leave with a good classification, my project has to be really good, and I can't lose any marks. So I decided to do my final project in computing and mathematics. And it was about getting a lot of data. I'm going back to 97, 98. And it was about having a lot of data and writing a program to get the key, things out of that data to calculate protein angles. So it was still human biology, it was still about human systems, but it was application of IT into that. And that really fascinated me, how IT was being used to solve some of the problems to do with human biology. And after that, I was hooked, and I've spent the last 20 years working in health sciences, pharmaceuticals, clinical research, logistics, all in the tech area. But the question was tech and consulting. So even though I came into tech accidentally, coming into consulting was very conscious decision. I'd followed Thoughtworks for a long time. People like Martin Fowler, his books were in our curriculum. Dan North and James Lewis and what they're doing with behavior-driven development, I was in awe of the way Thoughtworks think. So 5 years ago, I decided to join Thoughtworks. And since then, I've had the chance to work with some really clever people across different countries, time zones, cultures, languages, and I'm still buzzing. So that's me coming into tech.
Great. Susan, you weren't in biology, were you?
No, so I study computer science degree. So after I finished university, Thoughtworks contacted me to join the graduate program and join Thoughtworks University as a graduate developer. So if you don't know, TW, Thoughtworks University, is a program we have in Thoughtworks. So all the graduates, we just gather together, and for some weeks, we learn about agile methodology and Thoughtworks ways of working. So when I finished university, my main knowledge was in Java. But on my first project in Thoughtworks, the project was in React and Scala. So I just learned everything doing pairing, and with the support of my team, I get more familiar with that technologies. So I guess my message will be no matter what is your background, if you are open and willing to learn, you will be okay and fine.
Cool. And May, how about yourself?
Okay. I think there's some similarity between my path and Susan's path, but there's some difference as well, of course. So I actually come from the traditional path because I studied computer science for my bachelor and master. So that's one. Then I started to work as a developer, as just building embedded distributed system for 7 years. I using C, C++. I'm not sure any of you actually has been using it today. So there's a lot of fun, especially when you have multi-thread and call down, so you have to figure out which memory allocation goes wrong. So that's actually how do I end up in technology. So how did I end up in consulting? That was an interesting one because that happens when I moved from China to Australia. So I actually was a client of Thoughtworks before. So when I was moving to Sydney, so I was looking for jobs, and I was basically to say, hey, what kind of work I want to work for. So kind of like I said, I'm doing a few interviews, but in the end, like I'm going with Thoughtworks. But when I joined Thoughtworks, I do have my own passwords, because before Thoughtworks, I have only worked for one company for 13 years. So I'm very specialized. And the other one is I was never a consultant before. I really don't know how long I'm going to survive with Thoughtworks, because it's a typical, very different type of work. Comparing to what I did before is more around R&D, and here it's very different. So, but here I am, 13 years and a half with Thoughtworks. So my key message for you is around, if you're lateral hire, so you're no longer grads, you can't join Thoughtworks from graduate program, but you're still thinking about joining Thoughtworks for another career, I would say it's possible. So like I just say, just be a good consultant or great consultant. It doesn't require you have to be a consultant before. So there are so many transferable knowledge you can use.
Great. It's really interesting to hear the different journeys you've had, where Susan and May, you've taken a more traditional route with a degree and then moving into your developer role, while for Trang and Shazia, in your non-development role, the journey seems a bit more coincidental. So I guess through all these journeys, what were the biggest challenges that you have faced? Maybe I'll start with you, Shazia.
So you can imagine 22 years in tech, there would be many challenges from where tech was back in 2001, 2002, and the transition from waterfall to agile, being a woman in tech in that time. But there's two that, as I was thinking about these questions, there's two that I think which are still relevant to today. And my first challenge I'd like to share is the appreciation and recognition that software development and software delivery is a team sport. It's not a solo act. It's not a one-man band. And what I mean by this is, before Thoughtworks, 2-3 companies that I joined, they were making that transition, shift in mindset. So in those companies, I was a first BA. Before my joining, developers did everything. They picked up a story or they got involved in the requirements, and they're the ones who took it all the way through to delivery. They did testing as well, QA, UAT, everything. And then they released software. And my job was to come in and show them what good looks like, what a professional BA can do, build a BA community. As you can appreciate, I'm working with people to say, step back, let me show you how it's done. But these are the people that I have to work with as well. So it was about showing what good looks like, but also building relationships and sharing with them. I guess trying to get them to appreciate, to have faith in other disciplines. Beyond development, there's analysis, there's testing, there's design, there's product thinking, and having trust in each other and each other's craft. So it was tough at times, but then having some empathy and thinking creatively, putting myself in their place, helped overcome some of those challenges. My other challenge, I think, which is to some extent relevant today as well, is trying to be authentic to yourself and always being laser focused on what your purpose is. And what I mean by this is, we're in the business of change. And change is also happening to us as well. While we're introducing change is also happening to us. There's a lot of new technology coming. There's always something shiny that's happening in our industry. And we work with some very clever people, some very intelligent people. And there's a danger, and it's happened to me multiple times, but there's a danger that we can start to feel inadequate. We start to feel like we don't know everything. And then the tendency as a woman, or my tendency, is to work harder, work more, put in more hours, always be over-prepared. Luckily, I've had some really good mentors. I've had a really good circle of allies, and they pull me back and they remind me about burnout.
They remind me about Shazia, why are you doing this? What is the problem you're trying to solve? What is the outcome you're trying to achieve? Step back, work smarter, think of your purpose, and then try to be very focused around prioritizing according to all of those things. So those have been my 2 challenges.
Great. How about yourself, Nate? Do you see the same challenges in your career as well?
I probably see so many challenges. Like to say, many of them actually come to not like a specific one, but I actually found out just reflecting myself as more like to say Chinese female tech leaders. So I was there are 2 outstanding challenges I will talk through. So I think the first challenge is actually English as a language. So when I get started, right, to say I was working with Bell Labs Lucent. So it's basically its headquarters in US. So basically the entire communication, the day one from my working is actually English. So you go to conference calls, you write emails, all using English. As someone who had been studying English for many years, but haven't really practiced in the environment, I think starting from actually trying to understand the conversation to then becoming part of the conversation, then actually be able to, in the end, I'm able to just comfortable to present to a presentation in a large tech conference. So I'm going to that way. I like to say, I will just call out, so that is a challenge, can be overcome by practicing. For those of you who just have been thinking around English is a challenge, it is a challenge, but it can be overcome. Because just so many, I'm not sure whether you have noticed, just so many tech leaders, if you talk with them, just so many of them are not native English speakers. So that's why I think that if that's something really blocking, or do not overthink about that. The second one is actually for the past 10 years. So since I have been taking on more a senior tech leadership role, so been working with our clients primarily with around tech executives, the C-levels. So I actually found one of the common themes with all the clients I have been working with, because I often find myself being the only female tech leader, non-white in the boardroom. That has been quite a constant challenge. So that actually, what does that remind me? Because I did then look back and just what does the data tell me? Because if we look into tech industry today, to the general female representation, we are about 25 to 30%. But if we look at the tech executive level, it's less than 10%. It's a huge gap in there. So one of the things is what's the root cause? What is causing that? It's because in stereotypes, and people have been thinking, female, you can't do this, female can't do tech, right? You can't do this well, and there are biases, right? When people thinking about promoting the next leader, they always pick, if it's male, they tend to just go to with a male. And there are actually lack of sponsorship and mentorship. And even though actually has been a report talking about to say female are less likely to receive constructive feedback, which is crucial for their career growth, because if they don't receive constructive feedback, it's unlikely they're going to progress as of their career. So one of the things just call out for everyone is, it's not only just we hire more female as part of our team. I think we need to be really intentional of cultivating female tech leadership, just to ensure we're actually represented at the right level.
Great. Trang, what do you think about that biases and stereotypes challenge that Leah mentioned?
When I think about my journey, it's one of the things that stand out as well. But the stereotype and bias, it work a little bit differently in my opinions. In fact, it's worked like a reverse bias. So from my very own experience working in as a BA and then doing interviews with other companies, the BA role is labeled as a role suitable for female more than male. So back then in 2017, when I do the internship, I think that one of the reasons that I got in, despite I graduated from a different major, is because I'm a female. Yeah. And then, but that actually gave me a bit of like working favor because I got a lot of support from male-dominated companies. They are very, they are giving me extra care. They show me how to do things. I got the chance to shadow on the BAs, and I got a lot of help from developers. But when I go to like a more senior lead level, it worked against that work against me. So in a way that when like my share in the pod room, you might be the only or a very few females. You don't have allies. You don't have someone who also female to become your allies or to share the same understanding or to be empathetic with you. And then also being aware that you are a female in a male-dominated industry, you put yourself in a situation when you think you have to do extra to get the same recognition. So that's how stereotyping might work in my shoot.
Great. And Susan, how about yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I can relate a lot of all the challenges you mentioned, especially like working in a male-dominated industry where people can have bias towards you and maybe don't trust your ability so much. And also regarding the lack of female roles in the industry. So I can, if I don't have these female roles, I cannot see myself be like them at some point of my career. But then I wanted to talk about a challenge I faced when I joined Thoughtworks, but then I realized it was not really a challenge, and it was about being introvert and a consultant. So when I joined Thoughtworks, I have like this misconception that in order to be a good consultant, I need to be extrovert. And then I realized that is not correct, and introverts, we can also be really good leaders. So I had a really good advice from a thought worker that he told me that I need to find my own ways. So like, for example, if I'm in a meeting and I want to share like an idea with a client, but maybe I'm like too shy, I can share also that idea with a Slack message or an email, and the way will be like kind of different, but the impact will be like the same. So day to day, I try to find my own ways and try to step out of my comfort zone to learn more. Like, for example, today I'm doing this talk in XConf. So yeah.
Does any of our panel have any?
Yeah, can I say something? Yeah. This one is a really interesting one because what Susan shared around the introvert is around, I think there's an interesting fact people probably don't know, but I want to do a test real time here. Can you raise your hand if you're extrovert? Yeah, I think that's the interesting fact many people didn't realize is around, like to say, most of the people we're working with day to day and those tech leaders and we are all introverts, myself included. Like we are all introverts. Like I think in the word of like introvert, we may imagine like most people are extrovert, but that's not the case. And I really enjoy a book. There's a book, I'm not sure whether you have read that, but it's called Quiet, The Power of Introvert. But if you haven't read that, I strongly recommend just to have a read around this. You'll just like realize the real power of introvert.
Trang, do you have anything to add to that?
I didn't know that you were introvert, so I think when I joined Thoughtworks, and like unconsciously, I didn't do the usual spot like who is the introvert, who is the extrovert, because everyone like talk the same, everyone share their opinion, everyone feel comfortable talking about what they think. So it's never come to my mind to think about that, and I think the environment play a very important factor. That you feel safe enough, you feel appreciated enough to share what you think. No matter if you're introvert, extrovert, or are you in between, like extrovertly introvert. So, yeah.
Great discussion on this topic of being an introvert. But there was one interesting commonality I saw from all of your sharings is that having a role model to look up to and as a supporter for your growth was really important. I know that certainly for myself, like early on in my career, that was definitely the case. I had a really strong supporter in my work in Sydney back then. She was not my direct manager, but she was helping me with a lot of challenges I face at my work. They're not technical knowledge related, but more around how do I work with other people? How do I navigate this organizational structure, relationship, and and she was a strong supporter and enabler for my own growth. So I guess my next question for the panelists is, have you had this kind of mentorship relationship, and has it benefited your career? I'll start with Susan.
So yes, so during my 6 years in Thoughtworks, I feel like really lucky to work with people that I feel like they are really like open and willing to support you and grow you, using like their experience, their skills. So I can identify like two types of mentors I have during my career in Thoughtworks. One is more like they help me to define my career path, and in situations where I didn't know what to do next, like for example, when I do a grade change. And then the other type of mentor will be more like skill specific. And an example that came to my mind is when I joined Thoughtworks, I was not familiar with TDD. So I had like a mentor for a couple of months. So this person was like doing exercise with me so I can get more familiar and comfortable with TDD. So, yeah.
Shazia, how about yourself? So as I said earlier, I've been really lucky to have some really good mentors during my career. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for the advice and the guidance and the time that people invested in my growth. And for that reason, giving back is really important to me. It's very close to my heart. So I'll approach this question more from a mentor or mentoring perspective. Back in UK, I've been working with young women. One of the things that again is very close to my heart because people invested that time in my career and earlier on. But mentoring young women who have young mothers, women for whatever reason their education was disrupted, helping them getting back into education, finding opportunities for them, working with them to see what their constraints are, what makes them tick, what do they want to do with their education, where do they want to go after studying, what opportunities are available, what schemes are available. That's really close to my heart, so I help young mothers with that. In UK, in the BA community, I've had the opportunity to mentor some of the BAs, both in UK and outside of UK, helping them around difficult conversations, building high-performing teams, relationship building, finding their own path beyond BA, and things. And currently, I'm mentoring a data scientist around, again, their growth and grade, navigating the great change in Thoughtworks. I guess my advice is the second thing I can share is if you are looking for mentor and don't know where to start, my suggestion would be is ask for feedback. Most of the time I found mentors, when I ask for feedback, that the amount of time and effort and quality and depth that people invest in giving feedback shows that they are invested in your career. They're invested in your growth. They care about you growing. Those are some of the good people to hang on as mentors. The other way I advise to look for mentors is look at not role models, people who inspire you. The way I put my head around people who inspire me is people whose job I want to do in 5 years' time. And then I approach them and say, I want to do this job, I want to learn more about it, and that's how I find
I have found some of my mentors. The other piece of advice I would have is, and coming from as a mentor, some of the earlier questions your mentors will be asking you is, what is your North Star? Where do you want to be in 20 years' time? What makes you buzz? What are some of your challenges? What are your values? What are your non-negotiables? What are your boundaries? So it's good to be prepared with some of those things to make, to be able to get the most out of that mentor-mentoree relationship. And if you have any questions around mentoring, please find me afterwards. I'd love to chat.
Thank you, Shazia. So I guess we spoke a lot about challenges and some of the way that we can tackle that as a woman in tech, but what about strengths? Maybe I'll start with you, May. Like, what strengths have you found to be the most valuable as a woman in tech consultant?
This is actually a very tricky question. Actually don't normally see those like a gender difference a lot actually there, but I do see in a few areas that actually like a female probably like excels just by nature for someone, like it does not mean female cannot do that, but I do see in a few areas around that. So let's talk about consulting, right? So our business is normally like we only have business when client has really tough challenges they can't solve by themselves. So that's actually why we have business. So that's back into that. So actually, one of the unique strengths I say, I'll start with empathy and emotional intelligence. I think that's normally like to say, we're normally working with clients that actually have huge challenges themselves. I just think having empathy is, you normally say female actually excels in this space. They're able to like show and understand and have empathy with our client around to understand the situations or where they are and able to build relationships really quickly. I think this is really, really important because it's around, like to say, just bring a no judgment, right? It's like to say, people did their best with the knowledge they know. I think that's why, like to say, we need to look forward rather than blaming the past. I think that's empathy is really important. The second one is, I think it's really, the other one is the challenge we run into are normally like very complex problems. So that actually is more that require people be able to have a quite strong problem solving and analytical skills. I think that's actually like, I did see like females tend to do it quite well, like very patiently be able to break down big complex problems into smaller ones and be able to using data help people to understand what it is and figure out a direction towards. So the third one is actually back into the problem space we are in as well. Because it's challenged, it normally means that problem domain actually falls into, we're navigating the domain is more like known unknown or unknown unknown. So that just means like the domain we're working in, there are a lot of unknowns. We don't know. But I think that what does this mean? This actually means people need to be flexible and adaptable. I think that's one of the things. We don't know all the answers. We don't know the path. And we have to be flexible and be able to figure out the way incrementally as we go. I think that is another area I definitely say, like to say, so it's quite a strength area for female.
Great. And Trang, maybe as someone earlier in your career journey, do you see that there's the same strength?
Like May share, some of the strength like are universal. It doesn't really have either male or female can only do that. But from my very own experience, female or like the female college I work or even myself, I find that empathy is one of our strength by nature, and by that is mean we like my share, we as a consultant, our role is to understand the client needs, what they want, their challenge, and to bring the desired outcome to them. We have all the tools, we have all of the technical skill to do that, but without the ability to empathize and coming as someone who show empathy, who be empathetic to the client, there would be no trust in the beginning in order for them to give that to us, right? So empathy to me is to establish the trust with the client and with other people. And that is also something that helped me when the stakes are high, when people are so opinionated about how to do things, empathy stepping to take people to focus on the outcomes and then show people that I understand you, I hear you, but based on what we know, this is what is going to drive us to the result that we want. Do you want the result or do you want to be right? So this is the power of empathy, and I think females are naturally have that. Yeah. And the second thing, I think, is the ability to multitask. As now I'm speaking, but I know who raised the hand earlier, and I know who is doing something, and I can still focus on what they shared previously. So I think that's a skill that female is naturally good at. In the industry that moving so fast, and people are like the client are very, very demanding, and we can start with a lot of constraint, like human constraint, and in the unknown state, the ability to multitask, to wear different hats, to be able to do different role and responsibility and balance that. I think it really helped to boost the efficiency of the organizations.
Great, thank you for your sharings. I'd like to thank all the panelists today for your sharings, and of course the audience for your attendance and participation. Right, thank you.